Horatius at the Bridge by Thomas Babington Macaulay. Lars Porsena of Clusium, by the 9 gods he swore, that the great house of Tarquin should suffer wrong no more. By the 9 gods he swore it, and named a trysting day, and bade his messengers ride forth, east and west and south and north, to summon his array. East and west and south and north his messengers ride fast, and tower and town and cottage have heard the trumpet's blast. Shame on the false Etruscan who lingers in his home, when Porsena of Clusium is on the march for Rome. The horsemen and the footmen are pouring in amain, from many a stately marketplace, from many a fruitful plain, from many a lonely hamlet which, hid by beech and pine, like an eagle's nest hangs on the crest of purple Apennine. From lordly Volaterra, where scowls the far-famed hold, piled by the hands of giants for godlike kings of old. From sea-girt Populonia, whose sentinels descry Sardinia's snowy mountain-tops fringing the southern sky. From the proud mart of Piscia, queen of the western waves, where ride Massilia's triremes, heavy with fair-haired slaves. From where sweet Clandis wanders through corn and vines and flowers, from where Cortona lifts to heaven her diadem of towers. Tall are the oaks whose acorns drop in dark Auser's rill, fat are the stags that champ the boughs of the Ciminian hill. Beyond all streams Clitumnus is to the herdsman dear, best of all pools the fowler's love, the great Volsinian mere. But now no stroke of woodsman is heard by Auser's rill, no hunter tracks the stag's green path up the Ciminian hill. Unwatched along Clitumnus grazes the milk-white steer, unharmed the waterfowl may dip in the Volsinian mere. The harvests of Arretium this year old men shall reap, this year young boys in Umbro shall plunge the struggling sheep, and in the vats of Luna this year the must shall foam, run the white feet of laughing girls, whose sires have marched to Rome. There be 30 chosen prophets, the wisest in the land, who always by Lars Porsena both morn and evening stand. Evening and morn the 30 have turned the verses o'er, traced from the right on linen white by mighty seers of yore, and with one voice the 30 have glad their answer given. Go forth, Lars Porsena, go forth, beloved of heaven. Go and return in glory to Clusium's round dome, and hang round Nursia's altars the golden shields of Rome. And now hath every city sent up her tale of men, the foot are 80,000, the horse are thousands 10. Before the gates of Sutrium is met the great array. A proud man was Lars Porsena upon the trysting day. For all the Tuscan armies were ranged beneath his eye, and many a banished Roman, and many a stout ally. And with a mighty following to join the muster came the Tusculan Mamilius, prince of the Latian name. But by the yellow Tiber was tumult and affright. From all the spacious champing to Rome men took their flight. A mile around the city, and the throng stopped up the ways. A fearful sight it was to see through 2 long nights and days. For aged folk on crutches, and women great with child, and mothers sobbing over babes that clung to them and smiled, and sick men borne in litters high on the necks of slaves, and troops of sunburned husbandmen with reaping hooks and staves, and droves of mules and asses laden with the skins of wine, and endless flocks of goats and sheep, and endless herds of kine, and endless trains of wagons that creaked beneath the weight of corn sacks and of household goods, choked every roaring gate. Now from the rock Tarpeian could the wan burghers spy the line of blazing villages red in the midnight sky. The fathers of the city, they sat all night and day, for every hour some horseman came with tidings of dismay. To eastward and to westward have spread the Tuscan bands, nor house nor fence nor dovecot in crust of Miriam stands. Verbena down to Ostia hath wasted all the plain. Astur hath stormed Janiculum, and the stoutest guards are slain. I wis in all the senate there was no heart so bold But sore it ached and fast it beat when that ill news was told. Forthwith uprose the consul, uprose the fathers all. In haste they girded up their gowns, and hied them to the wall. They held a council standing there before the river gate. Short time was there, ye well may guess, for musings or debate. Outspake the consul roundly, the bridge must straight go down, for since Janiculum is lost, naught else can save the town. Just then a scout came flying, all wild with haste and fear. To arms, Sir Consul! Lars Porsena is here. On the low hills to westward the consul fixed his eye, and saw the swarthy storm of dust rise fast along the sky. And nearer fast and nearer doth the red whirlwind come, and louder still and still more loud from underneath that whirling cloud is heard the trumpet's war note proud, the trampling and hum. And plainly and more plainly now through the gloom appears, far to left and far to right, in broken gleams of dark blue light, the long array of helmets bright, the long array of spears. And plainly and more plainly, above that glittering line, now might ye see the banners of 12 fair cities shine, but the banner of proud Clusium was highest of them all, the terror of the Umbrian, the terror of the Gaul. And plainly and more plainly now might the burghers know, by port and vest, by horse and crest, each warlike Lucumo. There Silnius of Arretium on his fleet roan was seen, and Astur of the fourfold shield, girt with the brand none else may wield, Tolumnius with his belt of gold, and dark Verbena from the hold by reedy Thrasymene. Fast by the royal standard, overlooking all the war, Lars Porsena of Clusium sat in his ivory car. By the right wheel rode Mamilius, prince of the Latian name, and by the left false Sextus, who wrought the deed of shame. But when the face of Sextus was seen among the foes, a yell that rent the firmament from all the town arose. On the housetops was no woman, but spat his name and hissed. No child but screamed out curses, and shook its little fist. But the consul's brow was sad, and the consul's speech was low, and darkly looked he at the wall, and darkly at the foe. Their van will be upon us before the bridge goes down, and if they once might win the bridge, what hope to save the town? Then out spoke brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds, for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? And for the tender mother who dandled him to rest, and for the wife who nurses his baby at her breast, and for the holy maidens who feed the eternal flame, to save them from false Sextus that wrought the deed of shame. Hew down the bridge, Sir Consul, with all the speed ye may. I, with 2 more to help me, shall hold the foe in play. In yon straight path 1,000 may well be stopped by 3. Now who will stand on either hand, and keep the bridge with me? Then out spake Spurius Lartius, a Ramnian proud was he. Lo, I will stand on thy right hand, and keep the bridge with thee. And out spake strong Herminius, of Titian blood was he. I will abide on thy left side, and keep the bridge with thee. Horatius, quoth the consul, as thou sayest, so let it be. And straight against the great array went forth the dauntless 3. For Romans in Rome's quarrel spared neither land nor gold, nor son nor wife, nor limb nor life in those bravest days of old. Then none was for a party, then all were for the state. Then the great man helped the poor, and the poor man loved the great. Then the lands were fairly portioned, then spoils were fairly sold. The Romans were like brothers in those bravest days of old. Now Roman is to Roman more hateful than a foe, and the tribunes beard the high, and the fathers grind the low. As we wax hot in faction, in battle we wax cold, wherefore men fight not as they fought in those bravest days of old. Now while the three were tightening their harnesses on their backs, the consul was the foremost man to take in hand an axe, and fathers mixed with commons seized hatchet, bar, and crow, and smote upon the planks above and loosed the props below. Meanwhile the Tuscan army, right glorious to behold, came flashing back the noonday light, rank behind rank like surges bright of a broad sea of gold. 400 trumpets sounded a peal of warlike glee, as that great host with measured tread, and spears advanced and ensigns spread, rolled slowly towards the bridge's head where stood the dauntless three. The three stood calm and silent, and looked upon the foes, and a great shout of laughter from all the vanguard arose. And forth 3 chiefs came spurring before that deep array. To earth they sprang, their swords they drew, and lifted high their shields and flew to win the narrow way. Aunus from green Tifernum, lord of the hill of vines, and Sais, whose 800 slaves sicken in Elva's mines, and Picus long to Clusium, vassal in peace and war, who led to fight his Umbrian powers from that grey crag where, girt with towers, the fortress of Nequinum lowers over the pale waves of Nar. Stout Lartius hurled down Aunus into the stream beneath. Herminius struck at Sais and clove him to the teeth. At Picus brave Horatius darted one fiery thrust, and the proud Umbrian's golden arms clashed in the bloody dust. Then Ocnus of Philae rushed on the Roman three, and Lausulus of Ergo, the rover of the sea, and Arruns of Volsinium, who slew the great wild boar that had his den amidst the reeds of Cosa's fen, and wasted fields and slaughtered men along Albinia's shore. Herminius smote down Arruns, Lartius laid Ocnus low, right to the heart of Lausulus Horatius sent a blow. "Lie there," he cried, "fell pirate, no more aghast and pale. From Ostia's walls the crowd shall mark the track of thy destroying bark. No more Campania's hinds shall fly to woods and caverns when they spy thy thrice accursed sail." But now no sign of laughter was heard among the foes, and a wild and wrathful clamor from all the vanguard arose. 6 spears' length from the entrance halted that deep array, and for a space no man came forth to win the narrow way. But hark, the cry is Astur, and lo, the ranks divide, and the great lord of Luna comes with his stately stride. Upon his ample shoulders clangs loud the fourfold shield, and in his hand he shakes the brand which none but he may wield. He smiled at those bold Romans, a smile serene and high. He eyed the flinching Tuscans, and scorn was in his eye. Quoth he, the she-wolf's litter stands savagely at bay. But will ye dare to follow if Astur clears the way? Then, whirling up his broadsword with both hands to the height, he rushed against Horatius and smote with all his might. With shield and blade Horatius right deftly turned the blow. The blow yet turned came yet too nigh, it missed his helm and gashed his thigh. The Tuscans raised a joyful cry to see the red blood flow. He reeled, and on Herminius he leaned one breathing space, then, like a wildcat mad with wounds, sprang right at Astur's face. Through teeth and skull and helmet, so fierce a thrust he sped, that the good sword stood a hand's breadth behind the Tuscan's head. And the great lord of Luna fell at that deadly stroke, as falls on Mount Avernus a thunder-smited oak. Far over the crashing forest the giant's arms lay spread, and the pale augurs, muttering low, gaze on the blasted head. On Astur's throat Horatius right firmly pressed his heel, and thrice and 4 times tugged amain ere wrenched he out the steel. "And see," he cried, "the welcome, fair guests, that await you here. What noble Lucumo comes next to taste our Roman cheer?" But at his haughty challenge a sullen murmur ran, mingled of wrath and shame and dread, along that glittering van. There lacked not men of prowess, nor men of lordly race, for all Etruria's noblists were round that fatal place. But all Etruria's noblest felt their hearts sink to see on the earth the bloody corpses, in their path the dauntless three. And from the ghastly entrance where those bold Romans stood, all shrank like boys who, unaware, ranging the woods to start a hare, come to the mouth of a dark lair, where, growling low, a fierce old bear lies amidst bones and blood. Was none who would be foremost to lead such dire attack, but those behind cried forward, and those before cried back, and backward now and forward wavers that deep array, and on the tossing sea of steel to and fro the standards reel, and the victorious trumpet peal dies fitfully away. Yet one man for one moment strode out before the crowd. Well known was he to all the three, and they gave him greeting loud. Now welcome, welcome, Sextus, now welcome to thy home. Why dost thou stay and turn away? Here lies the road to Rome. Thrice looked he at the city, thrice looked he at the dead, and thrice came on in fury, and thrice turned back in dread, and white with fear and hatred scowled at the narrow way, where wallowing in a pool of blood the bravest Tuscans lay. But meanwhile axe and lever had manfully been plied, and now the bridge hangs tottering above the boiling tide. Come back, Horatius, loud cried the fathers all. Back Lartius, back Herminius, back ere the ruin fall. Back darted Spurius Lartius, Herminius darted back, and as they passed beneath their feet they felt the timbers crack. But when they turned their faces, and on the further shore saw brave Horatius stand alone, they would have crossed once more. But with a crash like thunder fell every loosened beam, and like a dam the mighty rack lay right athwart the stream, and a loud shout of triumph rose from the walls of Rome, as to the highest turret tops was splashed the yellow foam, and like a horse unbroken, when first he feels the rein, the furious river struggled hard and tossed his tawny mane, and burst the curb and bounded, rejoicing to be free, and whirling down in fierce career, battlement and plank and pier rushed headlong to the sea. Alone stood brave Horatius, but constant still in mind, thrice 30,000 foes before, and the broad flood behind. Down with him, cried false Sextus, with a smile on his pale face. Now yield thee, cried Lars Porsena, now yield thee to our grace. Round turned he, as not deigning those craven ranks to see. Not spake he to Lars Porsena, to Sextus not spake he. But he saw on Palatinus the white porch of his home, and he spake to the noble river that rolls by the towers of Rome. O Tiber, Father Tiber, to whom the Romans pray, a Roman's life, a Roman's arms, take thou in charge this day. So he spake, and speaking, sheathed the good sword by his side, and with his harness on his back plunged headlong in the tide. No sound of joy or sorrow was heard from either bank, but friends and foes in dumb surprise, with parted lips and straining eyes, stood gazing where he sank. And when above the surges they saw his crest appear, all Rome sent forth a rapturous cry, and even the ranks of Tuscany could scarce forbear to cheer. But fiercely ran the current, swollen high by months of rain, and fast his blood was flowing, and he was sore in pain, and heavy with his armor, and spent with changing blows. And oft they thought him sinking, but still again he rose. Never, I ween, did swimmer in such an evil case struggle through such a raging flood, safe to the landing place. But his limbs were borne up bravely by the bravest heart within, and our good father Tiber bore bravely up his chin. Curse on him, quoth false Sextus, will not the villain drown? But for this stay ere close of day we would have sacked the town. Heaven help him, quoth Lars Porsena, and bring him safe to shore, for such a gallant feat of arms was never seen before. And now he feels the bottom, now on dry earth he stands, now round him throng the fathers to press his gory hands, and now with shouts and clapping and noise of weeping loud, he enters through the river gate, borne by the joyous crowd. They gave him of the cornland, that was of public right, as much as 2 strong oxen could plow from morn till night. And they made a molten image, and set it up on high, and there it stands unto this day to witness if I lie. It stands within the comitium, plain for all folk to see, Horatius in his harness, halting upon one knee. And underneath is written, in letters all of gold, how valiantly he kept the bridge in those bravest days of old. And still his name sounds stirring unto the men of Rome, as the trumpet blast that calls to them to charge the Volscian home. And wives still pray to Juno for boys with hearts so bold as his who kept the bridge so well in those bravest days of old. And in the nights of winter, when the cold north winds blow, and the long howling of the wolves is heard amidst the snow, when round the lonely cottage roars loud the tempest's din, and the good logs of Algius roar louder yet within, when the oldest cask is opened, and the largest lamp is lit, when the chestnuts glow in embers, and the kid turns on the spit, when the young and old encircle around the firebrands close, when the girls are weaving baskets and the lads are shaping bows, when the good man mends his armor and trims his helmet's plume, and the good wife's shuttle merrily goes flashing through the loom, with weeping and with laughter still is the story told, how well Horatius kept the bridge in those bravest days of old.